joining us. My name is Anna Richter, and I'm one of the community managers from Oregon Unlimited. And so we're going to start here and do some welcome and intros, and then Michelle Atkinson is going to do some context setting for us, and then we'll have a group discussion. We'll go over a brief overview of Oregon Unlimited, and then we'll talk about some next steps and some takeaways. And so before we get started, we just have a couple brief little ground rules that we really want to encourage everyone to participate. So share your thoughts and ideas freely, but please be respectful and mindful of others' opinions. And just for Michelle and Kate on the video and voice, if you do want to, you can mute your mic, and there's just a little, if you hover over your picture, there's a little microphone, and you can just click on that, and it will mute yourself. And then I just always like to remind folks that you are on camera, so just be mindful, you know. And the folks that are joining us out there on the chat, please feel free to share your comments and questions and resources, and we're going to do our best to relay those back and forth. And so I'm going to live video. And so Lucy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Yes. So my name is Lucy Vallejo Anderson. I am another community manager for Oregon Unlimited, and I'm an Oregonian born and raised. So I have spent many afternoons in Oregon libraries, especially around Portland. So I'm excited to get to know some of the other counties a little bit and participate in this discussion because I know how much they meant to me. So.
Great. And just let folks know that are out there on the chat, our other community manager, Jade Frank, is out there supporting us. Do you want to say hi, Jade?
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm so excited to be here. I'll be on the YouTube chat, so please introduce yourself, and I'll ensure that we can include your comments in the talk.
Great. And Kate, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kate Lasky. I'm the Executive Director for Josephine Community Libraries in Josephine County. Our county has been in a state of economic and fiscal crisis for several years, starting as early, really, as 2003. And I'm now the Executive Director of a nonprofit that runs the library system as the fiscal agent for Josephine County Library System. We see ourselves as a bridge to stable funding, which would be regular tax funding yet again at some point. Currently we don't have regular tax funding, but that's our North Star, and we are dedicated to a library district.
Wonderful, thank you. And Michelle, I'm going to have you with a brief intro, and then I'll also do a more proper intro for you in just a minute, but go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me? I'm not seeing my mic. Okay. My name is Michelle, and I am here in Jackson County, where we are going through a similar situation as Kate described, though not quite as bad. Our libraries are still open, and for the time being, the county commissioners have said that they will close our libraries down within a year or two if funding is not found. So that's one thing we're working with. And I am a member of the Library Advisory Committee for Jackson County. So we advise the Board of Commissioners on our thoughts and recommendations for how to proceed with the library. And I'm also a board member of the Friends of the Medford Library, and that's a really fun group where we all get together and nerd out about how much we love the library and read books and just fundraise and do what we can to help our local libraries.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and meet other library supporters like Kate, who I've heard a lot about, but I've never actually met. So thank you for putting this on today.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Jada, did anyone out there in the chat able to say hello? Oh, you are muted.
I haven't heard from anyone on the chat yet, so if you are watching via YouTube, please do introduce yourself. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jade. Some brief context and welcome you all to joining us to our first community conversation on Google Hangout. It's obviously our first, and thank you again for your patience in getting started here today. We're thrilled to be here and talking to you, Michelle and Kate, and anyone out there on the YouTube channel. And so we want to just share a little bit about Oregon Unlimited and this conversation. Oregon Unlimited is a relatively new networking tool that was designed to help Oregonians connect and collaborate and drive forward more change in their communities. And so we want to be clear today that we're not the experts, and we see ourselves very much as facilitators of statewide discussions on issues that are important to Oregonians and important to our communities. And we also view ourselves as tech and content management support for building these information hubs and allowing us to facilitate these conversations. So our hope in some of these initial conversations is that we start to uncover the people like yourselves who are interested in exchanging ideas about keeping libraries open and creating change in their communities. And that's really what Oregon Unlimited is about. It's about uncovering and connecting the change makers in our communities. And so we believe that everyone has this potential, and Oregon Unlimited is really here to help make that work easier. So Michelle had offered to, set the stage for our conversation today, and she's a multimedia geek. She obviously gave a little bit more of her background, and she's really seeking to bridge technology and business and libraries, and she cares obviously a lot about the work in all of her roles in libraries. So we're to have Michelle here as well as Kate, and so by giving us a little bit of context setting, but then I also think we can have a pretty organic conversation because we are a small number of folks, and sort of just see where we go.
Yeah. Should I go?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, so the context and from what I've been trying to gather is that it's kind of twofold for why a lot of counties in Oregon are having a hard time keeping their libraries open. And Kate, you can jump in here too if you have any ideas on this. But from what I've gathered, it's twofold to do with the loss of timber money, right? So the ONC timber money that counties used to get, especially timber counties like Josephine County and Jackson County, would get a substantial part of their revenue from timber logging. And when that business declined, we had a lot less revenue that came in. And then that combined with some new measures, Oregon measures, like Measure 50 and Measure 5, really strictly limited the amount that counties could collect in levies. So for instance, in Jackson County, we had a library levy that was supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to keep our libraries open. But then when Measure 50 came in, it combined all of the levies that we had into the general fund. So even though that money is still being collected for or from the library levy, we're not actually, it's not necessarily going to the library. It could be the county commissioners could put it towards public safety, towards jails, towards anything in the general fund. So that's kind of the context of why the libraries in Oregon are where they are right now. And there are more reasons too, but those are just kind of the two that I'm mostly aware of. So I think that's important to know and understand, and it's really complicated. It's really too complicated, I think. So what a lot of libraries have done is they've created library districts, and I believe that's what Kate was talking about, if I'm right, about starting a library district in Josephine County. That would kind of create the library as a separate entity than the county fund. So all the money collected would go to just the library versus being split off for other parts of government. Is that right, Kate?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly right. And I would only add that for Josephine County, and I think Douglas County too, that part of what services are being maybe cut and diminished includes the public safety. So, for example, we have very few prosecuting attorneys, no juvenile detention system, extremely limited beds, and a citation program for what's considered minor crimes like robberies. We can't incarcerate people. So the issue and the context is a little bit larger in our community in that we are a library within that system. We are a library in a declining county.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to consider. Sometimes solving someone else's problem can help you solve your own.
Mm-hmm.
Solving criminal justice issues here would help solve libraries. Though libraries are certainly more popular and more beloved.
That's excellent. Oh, type too much. My microphone goes muted. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, that's it. What it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning that it automatically, when I shift over to another program to just see my question set, it mutes me out. So I will. So I think that you have all touched on this, but it'd be great to hear from each of you why you view your library as essential to your community on the community level, but also on a personal level. And so maybe, Michelle, if you want to kick that off, and then we'll ask you the same question.
Sure. Well, my story probably begins like a lot of people's story, and that is that I began going to the library because my parents took me. And I was probably 4. I remember my first library card. It had my little signature on it, and my E was backwards. You know, I didn't know how to write very well yet, I guess. But you know, I just loved the library. I grew up there. I would go after school. I would ride my bike and read, and it was just this amazing experience to learn that you could go to a building and learn whatever you wanted. Or schools seemed to me to be, you learned what the teachers wanted you to learn, which was always very valid things too, but at the library you could learn about whatever you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So I think for a child, and really for anyone, that is such a liberating experience. And then as far as the community goes, I think literacy and education really defines any community. So if you don't have literacy, you know, the statistics show that the more literate your community is, the lower your crime is and the higher your employment. So it really helps everyone to have an educated, literate community.
Definitely. That's a sweet story. And I mean, of your personal story. And, and Kate, would you like to share the same?
Certainly. I think, well, my background is in education. As an executive director, I don't have a Master of Library Science, though I have so much respect for the profession. And my master's is in education. So I see the library as the great equalizer of our community. It gives everybody, regardless of economic status or class or race or any of the current controversial issues within our community, access to the information that they need and the resources that they need to improve their lives, which really is much what Michelle was saying about literacy. Mm-hmm. And it increases or it decreases crime rates and it increases employment. And I see libraries as an essential component and supplement and natural partner to economic development in our community. And that is sort of the guiding path that our library is taking in order to sort of rally the troops, rally our community together to make sure our library stays open. My personal stories are just love of books and love of reading and community. I mean, people connect and gather in the library. Moms meet other moms with similar issues with newborn babies for their first step LAPSIT programs. Seniors meet other seniors who have similar health issues that they're facing, and folks can learn about technology. It is a driver of a healthy community.
Most definitely. I definitely appreciate the connection to technology that's happened, especially in recent years. And I'll just share a quick little story of, just the other day, realizing the relevance and importance to the library in my community, where I just recently moved to Manzanita, Oregon, and working on the setup for this call where I didn't have internet in my house, and I was like, oh, I know I can go sit outside the library. It wasn't open yet, but I could go, sort of borrow the internet from outside the library. So it's just a kind of funny little ironic bit, but how important that resource is. And you both brought up excellent points in the values to our community. And so I think we got quite a good context from where the library situation is in both of your communities, but it would be great if you could each expand a little bit more on sort of where you see the biggest needs and challenges for your communities right now.
I guess it just comes to finding enough money, of course. Mm-hmm. But it's not like we can really hold a bake sale to mm-hmm. come up with the amount of money it costs to open a library. It costs mm-hmm. a lot of money. It's a lot of employees. It's a big building. It's expensive. It's like, holding a bake sale to open a school, right? I mean, a school costs a lot of money to run. And we do get lots of donations, and that helps do things like get extra hours for libraries. Some of our libraries, we have some smaller libraries that are open about 8 hours a week right now. And your story, Anna, made me think of this. In a small town called Prospect here in Jackson County, they are putting out a covered table next to the library for people to come use after hours to bring their laptops or their phones to be able to use the internet when the library is closed. And that just really struck me, that hearing that story, that they're trying to provide the support even when the library can't be open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
And can I just jump in? I've been brainstorming, and I apologize if we can obviously talk about this later. This can be a different conversation. But one thing that I was thinking of, and I wanted to ask both of you, and I'm sure this has been going on, what kind of partnerships do you have with, or do you have any with nonprofits that are interested in literacy, or I'm just thinking of SMART. Have you heard of SMART off the top of my head? Yep. Something like that gathers books and has a fairly large volunteer base throughout the state. What kind of partnerships do you guys have with other nonprofits that have similar missions?
So one of the filters I sort of run, we have partnerships with lots of nonprofits, and they include the Boys and Girls Club, our local Coalition for Kids, which houses our Head Start, and SMART, and so many others. It's kind of hard to list them all. Even working with one on the Small Business Development Center through Rogue Community College. But the filter I have to run that through is, are we optimizing resources? So it's not only do we have to have a common mission, and since the library's mission is so broad, we have a common mission with most organizations in our community, save incarceration and the police. But we do have libraries and jails, so there's that too.
Everywhere.
But the common mission, but also what resources already exist. So an example for us, and this is, it could be controversial for some library systems in the state. We have a large collection of microfilm of our local newspaper, and our microfiche reader has broken twice, and the cost of buying this technology is extremely high for an underfunded system like ours, and it's low on the priority list because it doesn't get used as frequently as other collections that need our attention. So we are working on a memorandum of understanding with the Josephine County Historical Society to have a temporary long-term loan of those items over in their facility because they have 2 microfiche readers. And then we can defer that cost until we have a library district, until we can enter into a more robust digitization project for our whole county. And that way we save, you know, what, $5,000 and the time it takes to manage that collection or oversee that collection. So that's an example, and that's how I choose partnerships, is how are we optimizing our community's resources. Again, it's a librarian context.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think historically libraries have been really good about partnering with other nonprofits and other organizations. And Kate would know a lot more about it than me, kind of being in the library setting more. I'm more just an advocate and trying to keep it open, but I don't really deal with the runnings of the library. But from what I understand about like our library is we do have a lot of community connections. We have one program through the Family Nurturing Center that gives books to families who, a lot of them live in poverty, who can't make it to the library. A lot of these families have come from abuse situations and are kind of learning how to live in a healthy situation, and they get these really cute little book bags filled with kids' books, and they can, when they finish reading them, they bring it back and they get their book bag refilled. And that's, you know, a program we've heard has really helped a lot of people in the community, and that's just one of many programs like that. But that was a really good question, Lucy.
Just, you know, Oregon Unlimited is really trying to focus on, Kate, like you were touching on, you know, resource sharing, because I know money is a huge issue, obviously, with libraries around the state. And so if there are people that we can connect that have resources that you all need, you know, trying to make those connections happen, because I know it can be difficult. Oregon's a pretty large state, takes a pretty long time to drive around. So if there's any way that we can make those connections online and then foster those relationships coming out of that, that's one of our main goals. So
I think for us it would be really wonderful to be able to work with more effectively and in a way I can't quite imagine, which I think is where Oregon Unlimited would come in, with our community colleges. I think we've opened up the dialogue, but we don't know where that dialogue's going to go. I know that the director for Rogue Community College Libraries is really dedicated to the idea of interlibrary alone between Jackson and Josephine, and we have these 2 struggling systems in crisis. It's pretty hard to look at that vision, but there's something in that. Like, how can we work together to share the resources? Again, interlibrary loan is sharing resources. But those are very expensive systems to set up.
Just the technology involved with that?
And the staffing,
oh,
and
okay.
the storage space, and then the joined cataloging system. You have to be pretty flexible to partner and collaborate.
And yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I'm just taking notes.
Yeah, that's
seriously over here.
it's just something I don't know how to solve.
And sort of in addition, because clearly funding is a huge issue that you are both facing, and all the libraries across the state are, do you see other things that are standing in your way in terms of sort of advancing your library's missions?
Michelle, do you have any?
Well, I would say there are some misconceptions in public opinion about libraries. I've heard from people that, oh, you don't need libraries anymore, or, you know, what do you use the library for? Is it just an empty building? You know, and you hear this from people who don't actually go to the library, right? Mm-hmm. People who don't go to the library tend to have misconceptions that the library is obsolete, and I think that misinformation is something that would be tremendously beneficial if we could just kind of get rid of, and help people understand what the library is doing, how it keeps up with technology. You can go to a lot of libraries, our libraries, and download ebooks for your Kindle. So instead of paying $10, you know, you can get one for free. You can come and use the internet if you don't have the internet, which, you know, a lot of people take for granted, but there are still a lot of people here in Jackson County and Josephine County who do not have access to computers, access to internet, and that's almost the only way you can apply for jobs these days. Mm-hmm. I mean, you need a computer. It's that is part of literacy now. It's not just book literacy, but it's technology literacy too, and that's what libraries provide. So I think that is kind of the barrier right now, is to help people and help the community understand what the library does and how it's an asset to the community, how it's not obsolete. In fact, more people than ever are using the libraries here in Jackson County, and a lot of people just don't know that.
Mm-hmm. And Michelle, do you think that messaging, you know, like you said, they're not obsolete, and I completely agree with you. And do you think part of the issue with some of these levies and some of the funding is that people, for some reason, that message isn't resonating, or do you think that it's, you know, Kate, you can obviously speak to this as well, is there something else? Is it not for lack of wanting the libraries to be open, but is it something else that's getting in the way? I'm sorry, I hope that was articulated.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, because it's, I think most people, even people who aren't quite sure what the library does, they don't want to see the library close. Mm-hmm. I haven't talked to anyone who says, oh, we should shut down the libraries, right? No one that I've met has said that. But what a lot of people say is, can we trust our county government? Mm-hmm. Can we trust that they're going to use the money like they say they're going to use it? Mm-hmm. Maybe we're going to pass this library levy and they're just going to put the money towards public safety, you know, because there's no reason they can't. But if you have a library district, which I believe like 26 out of 36 counties in Oregon have library districts, so a lot of them have it, that means that the county can't use the money, and I touched on that earlier. They can't use the money. It's the library's money. And so I think that's why historically counties or the voters have really passed these library levies or library districts by a fair margin, is because people can trust that they know where the money's going, and it's out of the county's hands at that point.
Yeah, and we have a few, sorry, just to get these in here, we have a few YouTube comments from Maureen.
Oh, great.
So she says that we need to understand what groups are already using the library as a resource and recruit them as advocates. Too many groups are remaining silent in the fight. And she's a board member at the Friends of the Medford Library, so Michelle, you might know her.
Yeah.
And then she also says that people have a good idea of the cost of the libraries and no idea of the value of the libraries. So, and that the number 3 requirement of employers is ability to read and write. So you can't write well if you can't read well. I think, you know, those two are definitely related. I've experienced that myself. So those are just a few comments that we had popping up on YouTube. So I don't know if those resonate, if you guys want to go off of them, or.
And Kate, if you would speak a little bit more about the work that you've been doing around the library district, that would be really great too.
Oh, it's difficult to move a district measure or initiative forward when we have a crippled criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. So we had planned to put that measure on the ballot in May of this year, and we couldn't because our criminal justice levy failed. And we don't, I mean, going up against public safety and forcing people to choose between libraries and public safety is just not good. Both will lose in that battle, and so we want to support our criminal justice system and support our county government. They are, commissioners who are and administrators who are running a county on a meager diet, and they don't have enough money to provide service. Unfortunately, I have to leave here in a few minutes, and I think I'd like to just touch on one of our obstacles, or one of the obstacles that I recognize, is the element of service. So because our libraries are open so few hours, 24 hours a week, we're packed during those hours. Sometimes difficult to walk from one side of the room to the other in the main library. We're signing up 300 new library card holders every month over the last 2.5 years. And that's a conservative number. So we have this huge demand and limited hours, because the real cost is staffing and who can handle the greater circulation when you open up more hours. So how is a community to see the value of a library or a criminal justice system that can't serve them properly? Mm-hmm. People relate to what they receive personally. And like Michelle said, if their parents haven't taken them to the library and they don't know what it is, that's a whole different kind of set of problems. But we can't effectively reach out to that group on those limited hours. Mm-hmm. We can't even attract the teens to our library and have a youth librarian who can make a robust literacy program for youth on 24 hours a week, when kids like that age need a real variety of hours. Because they're at their first-time jobs and they only can come on Sunday, and our libraries aren't open on Sunday. So there's a real balance between how much service you can provide on your meager budget to build value for libraries, to ask for more because you can only do so much. And that's a real obstacle for us. It comes down to people don't know what they don't have.
Yeah, I think that's very well articulated, and appreciate you sharing that. I guess one more just thought or question for you before you take off, if you have to leave us, is just if there's anything else that you can see, and you don't have to answer this now, but just in terms of vision around what other support and what other learnings you could gain from other libraries and other people in the community that might be able to support those and hopefully overcome some of those obstacles.
That might take more time to think.
Yeah.
How to overcome them. Right now, we really reach out to our colleagues to help us meet standards as much as we can. The Oregon Library Association's been working on new public library standards, and we want our library bridge that we're building until we get a district to be as close to standards as possible. So we really reach out to our colleagues for professionalism and ask for their support in making sure that we're the kind of library they want to have in their state. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I mean, I think all boats rise. I think sometimes I envision a Better Southern Oregon campaign. Mm-hmm. All of our individual counties join forces in communicating these key messages, like Michelle was talking about, what internet and usage at the libraries and the importance. And I think Oregon Unlimited with this discussion is really helpful to me. I get to meet Michelle, I get to meet you, and maybe some folks who are tuning in on YouTube can share some ideas to help keep this really important resource and economic driver viable in struggling counties.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And Kate, actually, we're going to be sending you, everybody, both on video chat and on the watching on YouTube, an invitation. We have a Keeping Our Libraries Open page on Oregon Unlimited.
Oh, great.
So this would be a great place. We'll send you an invite to that page. it should be in your inbox actually right now or in the next few minutes. So depending, you know, with our luck today with technology, we'll see how long it takes.
I'm very sorry to have to leave early.
No, don't worry about it. We can continue. The great part is we can continue this conversation on the Oregon Unlimited. So we're all on there, and we have more people coming on, and I think so. Yeah, there's a place where we can house this discussion, which is awesome.
Yeah. I would love to stay connected with you, Kate, and share some resources and you know, share it with anyone in Southern Oregon. You know, if we can create some kind of network like that, I think that could be really powerful. Just, you know, when people unite and stay together, stick together, you know, that's when big things happen.
Yeah, they're all singing the same song. People
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, goodbye, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Bye,
Thank
Kate.
you so much, Kate.
Okay,
Take care.
thanks.
Great. Wonderful. And so, Lucy, maybe now is a good time just to run through and give a brief overview to folks about and not only just for the folks that are on the line right now, but also since this is a recording, then we'll be able to share this for other folks who are interested. So if you want to do that run through a little bit about Oregon Unlimited, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Let's see. Let me know when you guys can see it.
You may have to click on Lucy Michelle just to make her bigger, but Lucy, we see your browser, not the PDF.
Oh, you do? I clicked on the...
Maybe try one more time.
Does that come up? Oh.
No, you need to come back to the video and then go back out to the screen share, I believe.
Okay. Here, I'll put some stuff. I'll minimize some stuff.
So you just want to not choose your desktop, you want to choose the application.
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay.
It's just being finicky. Okay, so screen share. So the same. See, I have a couple. Here we go.
There you go.
Okay, you guys can see it?
Yep, we got
Yes.
you.
Great. Okay, so sorry about that. Like I said, we're just a little testing out. So as you can see, this first slide, I'm just going to speak a little bit about how to join Oregon Unlimited. Like I mentioned to Kate, we have a project page set up already for this particular topic. So super easy to get jump right on board and get involved. So a little screenshot of our website. So you can just go to OregonUnlimited.org, and the Join This Site orange button is in the upper right-hand corner. So you just click on that, and you can create your account. So you can do that connecting yourself to social media. So if you have a LinkedIn or a Twitter or Facebook, you can connect with that information. You can also create your own account, just a username and password that's separate from anything else. So that's pretty simple. Takes about 2 minutes, and then the Join Our Keeping Our Libraries Open group. So you can join this page. You can use this little search bar that you see on the right-hand side. That will be on the it's on the home page. It's on any page you go to. It's standard. So you can just type in Keeping Our Libraries Open, and a drop-down menu should appear, and you can click on that, which will lead you to this page. And this is a screenshot of what the top looks like. You can see Anna and Jade on the right are already members. And you can actually also, so you can join, we can invite you to join, which I believe we have. And then you can also follow, so this following button on the right-hand side under workspace options allows you to get updates on it. So, if you're not joining the group but you want to follow it, you can follow it right there. Has a little bit of a description. And you can poke around and explore around that page and the other projects we have. You can see on the left-hand side, we have some of the projects named. So I encourage everybody to make a profile and participate, and you'll get news updates, and you can follow us on Facebook if you want as well. You can just search for Oregon Unlimited. They have, we put our events on there, and we do we usually post about 3 or 4 times a week, so you can just get updated on both fun things and things that are going on in Oregon Unlimited and all things wonderful in Oregon. So that's available for everybody as well. So as next steps, as we wind up this conversation, you can definitely view the video recording from this call. Lots of close-ups of our beautiful faces on YouTube. So that video recording could be made and shared out to whoever wasn't able to make it today. And when you do join Oregon Unlimited, I would encourage you to share some of the resources on best practices that we talked about today, and anybody else that's watching. You can just post in the group and comment. People can comment on what you've said and just participate in the conversation. So it's a place to connect. It's a place to learn. It's a place to share. So working together to make sure that libraries across the state remain open and available to everybody that needs them. So I'm going to come back to my face. There we go.
Wonderful.
So those are just some basic next steps, and I think this is a great topic to continue talking about on Oregon Unlimited. And now that we've gotten a little bit of the hang of Google Hangouts, we can maybe organize one of these again and get more people on it. And I think it's just really, really important to keep the discussion going and lines of conversation open. So.
Definitely. Thank you, Lucy. And Michelle, I just want to give you a chance if you have any closing parting words for our YouTube viewers.
Yeah, well, I wanted to thank you first to everyone who is on YouTube and who will be watching this in future as well. I think Oregon Unlimited for putting this together. This is just the single most important thing that we can be doing right now is talking and connecting and networking. So I have joined Oregon Unlimited. I see that Maureen Swift has also joined, and she's in the chat room right now, I believe. And she is president of Friends of the Medford Library. She's been a library advocate for many years, and she knows her stuff. So
awesome.
She's a good person to talk to about this, and I'll be there, and let's all just connect and share resources. I'll be adding some resources that I've collected over time about kind of why the library is in the situation, and there's a lot of resources out there for advocacy and how to run a campaign, a ballot initiative. There's a lot of people who have done this successfully. Some in Oregon, some in other states, and by just kind of collecting all this collective knowledge and putting it in one place, I just can't think of anything better than that right now.
Great. I couldn't have said it better myself. I won't try to reiterate that. That definitely, Michelle, you've really embodied a lot of what Oregon Unlimited is about, and we thank you and everyone out there and the folks that do listen to the recording for sort of being innovators with us and being experimenters with the new technology and sort of seeing where there might be possibilities for us to connect and to create more impact in our communities and specifically in our libraries in this instance. And for folks out there, if you're interested in any other topics that we're working on, we're looking at hosting 2 more Google Hangouts, one on disaster resilience on July 31st, and then on August 7th on rural youth engagement. So we definitely invite you to join us for those. And then also just encourage you to email us with your suggestions and ideas about other topics that are of interest of statewide, or maybe are just interested in your community that you think gaining some greater impact or involvement from your friends and neighbors and community members and Oregonians can help with. So
info at OregonUnlimited.org.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So we look forward to connecting with you on Oregon Unlimited and on Facebook, and our emails and phones are always open too.
All right. Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Lucy.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everyone out there.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.